All right, we're live. Welcome. So everyone's here. So Jonah, you're going to be starting, and then so because he's proposition, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to be taking the side that the gender pay gap is influenced by gender itself, not personal choice, not anything that makes sense, not anything that's justifiable. Obviously, we all know that the gender pay gap, we hear the tagline 79 cents on the dollar, and I don't necessarily think that we can attribute all of the disparity between men and women to that. However, I think that we can point out significant influences of discrimination and attribute part of the pay gap to that and work to address those things. There are definitely parts that can be attributed to things that either we can't define the cause of or are just matters of personal choice or like unfortunate realities that we can't change. But there is still a significant effect of gender on the pay gap, and I'm here to prove that to you guys.
Okay, so that's nice. So I can talk. Okay, so I would be taking the opposite from Jonah. And obviously there are some factors that plays into it. There's factors. I believe there are factors such as job choice, job selection. There are also factors as like obviously like work hours factors that obviously influence that. So I believe in that, and also I believe that my opponent is going to argue that disparity can substantive discrimination. This will be asserted in a number of ways. One way is to argue that science cannot establish certainty and instead can only show correlation. This is a misunderstanding. What disparity does not equal discrimination. You must show the burden of proof. Basically, that premise is more likely than it negotiate. If that does not fulfill, we must say that we don't know what causes the disparity, and that would be, one of my argument against Jonah. So let's get this thing started.
All right. So just a couple of things that have to refer to your opening statement. I do agree with you that disparity is not necessarily indicative of discrimination. However, I do think that there are multiple instances in which you the disparity would be indicative of discrimination. And I do think that differential treatment, treating people different based on their gender or sex, would be indicative of discrimination if there is not a reason for it. And if there is a reason for it, it's not actually differential treatment, it's just happenstance. So I would like to point that out, because when you treat people differently because of their gender, that is actually discrimination. When they have different outcomes, that's not necessarily discrimination. So I just wanted to also talk about like some of the things that you mentioned. You talking about like job choice and stuff like that. So your contention for job choice, I'm sure, is going to be that women choose lower paying jobs, but I feel like it would be like doing a disservice to the topic to pretend like women just choose lower paying jobs because they don't like money.
They also don't go into factors, and you have to put factors that have a blue collar jobs. Women don't tend to join those blue collar jobs. Actually, there's factors like that too.
Yeah.
This definitely makes a big change in the amount
And
of gap too. And also, like, women are less likely to like demand to apply to a job after viewing it, which is another factor into that.
Wait. What do you mean by demand to apply to a job? What does that mean? I'm unclear on that phrase.
No, I said women are less likely than men to apply to a job after viewing it. There's stats that shows that, right?
What does that have to do with anything? We're only talking about situations where someone can make a decision. So like,
it's obviously a role that has to play with the gender gap, right?
I don't understand.
Obviously,
that affects anything. When you
look at if you're less likely to apply to a job after viewing it than men, obviously it's a factor that's going to play into this.
How will that affect?
How's that going to affect your pay? You're less likely.
I don't apply to a job to affect my salary.
If you're not going to, okay, women are more selective than men. There's stats that shows that.
Salaries?
No, I'm not saying that.
Why would they have higher salaries?
Are you now understanding what I'm proposing?
Not at all.
I'm saying right now.
I'm kind of lost. You're saying that women
they're more selective, right? Men tend to choose a job that they make less. I'm not saying. I'm just saying that's a factor that goes into it.
Right. So you can name lots of factors, but I want you to tell me how that influences their pay, because this seems like something that you're introducing, but like it doesn't seem like it's relevant. It seems like a non sequitur.
It's obviously it's relevant, because like it's a factor. If you're less like, men, if you're less likely to apply to the job than men, right?
Then you get paid less when you take the job. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what you're saying.
No. Well, you have when you're talking about the job, you have to like put in other factors that goes into it, like the married couple. The married couple factors, right? That male,
Yeah.
Okay, there's like male that are married, right? Without male that are
Yeah.
married, right, tend to work more hours after they're married, right? So like there's the average weekly hours after a male gets
What's
married
your date on this?
increases 0.4.3%, while women like that works the same. That while women stays the same, right? There's
Okay, wait.
obviously it's not
Can
gonna
I see
be
your data on
discrimination.
this?
Huh?
Can I see your data on this? Can you put it in chat so I can look at what you're talking about?
I don't know how to use this. I don't really know how to use this thing. Like
You
go
can
to
just
private
put it in the private chat, yeah.
Or you
Like
want
put
to
a link in the private chat.
Or you can send it to him on Instagram if you need to.
okay.
So I like again, like I'm not saying that this like that there are like no relevant factors, but at the end of the day, you have a dynamic where women are getting paid less than men. So like if you look at like actual studies into this, there's a 2016 study, and it accounts for hours worked, region, education, occupational skills, motherhood, and marital status, and it concludes that there's an unexplained gap of 8% even after you account for all of these things. So I don't know what an alternate explanation of that is. That seems like fairly.
So you're saying
So
you're saying the unexplained gap automatically means discrimination?
that would be indicative of discrimination. So look, I want to be very clear here because I don't want to pretend like we can prove anything with absolute certainty because that's not how studies work.
But
all we can say is that women that shouldn't get paid less do get paid less. That's all that we can say.
Aren't you supposed to prove that since you're in the defense? You're
What?
saying that it's based on gender. You're saying that it's based on gender.
Yes,
and you just said that you can't prove it. You just said that you can't prove it.
You understand that you can't prove anything? This is not going to be a debate if we sit here and go, well, you can't necessarily prove because it is literally fundamentally impossible to account for every single factor in a study. You recognize that, right? Like that you can't account for every factor in a study, right? You understand that, right?
Yeah.
Like no matter
and that's why I literally said, and that's why it was my.
So it's impossible to prove anything, and it's impossible to prove that anything isn't true. However, we can show that it makes the most sense to believe something based on like a large body.
That's why I came in, and my opening statement was the disparity cannot prove the discrimination because exactly how I said in the beginning.
Jeremy, my question is like, so what is then if it's not gender? What do you think the reason is if it's not gender?
If it's not gender, there's other roles, right? There's other roles. Like I think maybe it's like the gender roles that plays effect into it, because if you look in the marriage couple stats, right? Marriage couple statistics, right? That why do men work more after they get married?
Oh,
right?
I can actually.
Why do like there's gender roles that plays into that, right? Of our Western culture, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
like,
no.
If we can't prove, my bad, I'm cutting you off.
Yeah, no, I can talk about this. Actually, there have been multiple studies that are debunking the motherhood myth, right? So women that are married are expected to be like less dedicated to their jobs because they're seen as mothers, which is again another negative expectation that society has for women because fathers don't face the same penalty. So they're less likely to be promoted. But these expectations are used to preserve like an antiquated system of gender inequality within firms. So even when women and they've done controlled studies on this, and I can read you the abstracts from the studies, but even when women continue to work the same hours, they work harder, they work the same amount, they have the same amount of productivity after they get married, all women in the firm are less likely to have a promotion, including them. Whereas when men get married,
the study is taking a lot of factors into it. It's not just taking those factors into it. You have to understand that, Jonah. So like
right, that's what I'm telling you. They're attributing it to. Do you know what a fixed effect variable model is?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so it's when you change one thing about someone, and then you look at when all the other things are equal, then you measure what other thing changes, right?
Okay.
So when you look at a fixed effect variable model, right, like AKA a woman getting married, you can tell that her getting married is the point at which things changed, which indicates that her getting married is the reason that she's getting this worse treatment. And I can read you off
so you're saying basically, so you're agreeing that it's the gender role that our system plays in that in the marriage that affects it.
No, not in the marriage.
That affects it.
Not in the
Is that
marriage,
basically
no.
what you
It's the
said?
gender role that the boss assumes that they are going to take on, the sexism that the boss projects onto them. For example,
How do you?
let me give you an example of this. This is like saying, like, because black people are more likely to commit crime, all black people are criminals. That's discrimination because a very small portion of black people are going to commit violent crime, but they do it more often than other people. So this is an example of all women being punished for the fact that a few women take advantage of certain benefits, but that's statistical discrimination, definition, textbook discrimination, and it's like that's a pervasive trend that's completely unjustified and contributes to less productivity for firms.
Okay. So did you say something about? Oh no, you didn't. You didn't say something about promotion. Did you say something about promotion in your sentence? You was talking so fast.
I don't think I'm. Oh yeah. No, I did mention promotion.
I'm pretty sure you mentioned promotion, right? Pretty
After
sure you
women
mentioned, right?
less likely to get promotion, whereas after men have kids, they have no significant effect on their likelihood of getting promoted. Yeah.
Wait. Can you repeat that?
After women have children or enter into a
Mhm.
family, a marriage, whatever, they are less likely to get a promotion. And men are just as likely to get a promotion. They see no effect on, or I think it might even be more likely, but it's definitely not less. And then there's like these studies.
Let's say because I can find, I don't know where you find that study of the promotion, because I can find a lot of study that shows that with promotion, even that's against the promotion, right? So like I don't think that it's fair to like conclude that sexism is work in the place, right? And what if women and men are raised differently, and so what's the word? You negotiate differently, right?
You're referring to sexism, you know, if women and men are raised differently, like that's still a form of sexism. Like that would be their gender is the factor that influenced them to have worse or better negotiating skills. If men and women are raised,
there's a stat. No, not I'm not talking about that. There's a stat that like if they're choosing, they're different, selective in their job, right?
What do you mean by that?
Okay. What I mean by they're different, selective in their job. When I say earlier that like women are 16% less likely than men to apply to a job, that's what I mean, right? So like they're more women are more selective.
And how did
that doesn't if a man will like go and like apply for a job, right, where they would get less paid, right? There's more men in blue collar jobs, right? Why there are more men in blue collar jobs, right?
Because
men are willing. They're willing to take the lower salary than a woman, right?
Wait a second. So they're willing to take a lower salary, but somehow that creates a gender gap in favor of men. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Obviously, because blue collar jobs are leading right now, right?
Lots of blue collar jobs also require physical strength that is more often possessed by men than women. So like they have a higher chance.
How does that? If they have how does that? That doesn't really show discrimination.
Sorry, go ahead.
If there's more men that are going into it, there's more men that are going into that job. Huh?
I'm not talking about those fields, though. I'm talking about women experience discrimination across the entire workforce and in more specific instances. I'm not saying that.
But we have to take into consideration of those fields. We have to take into consideration many fields.
I'm not accusing blue collar jobs or the construction industry specifically of discriminating against women because less women are in those jobs. I don't know if you think I'm making that argument, but I'm not. I'm saying I have this evidence, and you still haven't said anything about the study that showed that 8.4% that women that have factors that should influence how much they get paid that are exactly the same as men get paid 8.4% less. And I know you could say, well, we can't know for sure this is because of gender, but I want to know what else could go into paying somebody, right? Because you observe a variety of characteristics in terms of deciding
the workforce, the amount of work you work.
So
that's obviously that's the thing that's going to go into it, right?
They accounted for that in the study, though. They accounted for that in the study. Like they account for how much. What?
I didn't hear what the last part you said, Glitch.
I said that they accounted for how much you worked in the study. That's not a viable explanation for what I said. It's accounted for in the study. They account for how much you work. They account for a variety of other factors as well.
So
they for hours worked, the region you're in, your education, your occupational skills, and whether you're a mother or not, and still finds an 8% unexplained gap. That doesn't, that should, like, I want you to name another factor that should decide how much you get paid. Because right now I'm looking at that. I look at that data and I say that women and men.
That's literally what I say in the beginning. When I go back in the beginning, the misunderstanding of like disparity does not equal discrimination, right? That's literally what I said. You have to provide the burden of proof because you're saying the disparity is based on the gender.
This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the burden of proof. So, like, I agree that I would have to show you some evidence that basically the way that the burden of proof works is you defer to the most plausible thing that so like nothing is plausible until you've offered premises or evidence that support a certain conclusion, right? I've offered premises that support the premises and evidence that support the conclusion that discrimination exists. Now I want to know why those premises don't support the conclusion that gender discrimination exists. The reason why those things support that is because if gender discrimination were to exist, that would be the case, and gender discrimination definitively, undoubtedly, unquestionably existed, and this trend has continued. Right? So those are my two pieces of evidence. And I need to know why that does not indicate gender discrimination. I've transferred the burden of proof over to you by providing a set amount of evidence that I needed to provide in order to transfer the burden of proof to you. Okay. So what's your alternate explanation? Why would I not attribute that to gender?
My alternate explanation? I mean, like, you can't, like you said in the beginning, like, you can't say, you're saying something, you can't then prove that it is on discrimination, right? I'm saying that obviously you have to take in multiple factors that goes into it. We still haven't found those factors, right?
Jeremy, the thing is that what Jonah is saying is that with the study he's seen, like, he can attribute it not 100%, but mostly to gender. What you would have to do is just give examples on why that's very false.
Okay, let's talk about an example. Okay. Male manager, right? A single male manager, like, without kids, like, he earns $60K a year, right? And then you get a single female manager without kids, right? She earns $58K, right? Why is there a disparity between those two, right? On average, male managers, right, work 43.7, right, hours per week, while single female manager work 42.3. So that's a thing that I can use that. There's the disparity between the amount of work hours, right? How can you change that? You can't, like.
Can I
disparity between that?
Can I step in and say something? First of all, I think that that you're looking at your data doesn't actually correlate with what you're talking about, because for the one thing you're referring to their marital status and whether they have kids or not. For their salaries, and then
why would that not be a factor?
Okay, well, then you're referring to them holistically in terms of how many hours they work a week, which is not like a fair comparison because you can't disaggregate the data for that. But second of all, if you want to talk about why women work less a week, absenteeism, less hours worked, is associated much more highly with what's it called, sexual harassment in the workplace, something that women are 4 times more likely to experience than men, and which has like tremendous economic cost to companies. So, like, if you want to talk about like why women don't show up, or why women are expected to take kids, or why women have more obligations, that would still be attributed to sexism. That doesn't mean it's not sexism. It just means it's one level detached. But there are multiple reasons why women will work less than men, and that is one of them. So the fact that women experience sexism in the workplace, at home,
that's why I said without kids. That's what I said without kids. I'm mentioning without kids because kids is obviously women have to take time after the kids are done. You don't have any obviously a factor into it.
You don't have any data on how long female managers work without kids. You only have data on how long women managers work in general and men managers work in general. You don't have any data without.
I said without kids. I literally said without kids.
Okay, so that data is for male managers without kids and female managers without kids for both the salary and the hours worked per week.
That's literally what I said.
Okay.
I said without kids. Okay,
I missed.
Earn 60K and females manager without kids in 50K. And I said the difference between that is obviously. That's why I said without kids, because you have to take in those considerations, right? And females obviously have babies and other things that they have to do, right? So that's why I said without kids.
Yes, I understand. I understand what you're saying now. I either misunderstood you or you misspoke or something. I don't know what
I'm
happened.
sorry.
No, it's fine. It was just a misunderstanding. But that's like a very nice, like very specific piece of evidence that has to do specifically with managerial roles. It doesn't address hiring discrimination, how women get to those managerial roles, how women are represented in those managerial roles, why they work less hours. It's a very simplistic and narrow-minded explanation of the gender pay gap. You just attribute working less hours to choice, when in reality, those choices are influenced by societal factors, like the one I just.
The gender. That's why I said there's other factors into it besides.
Right.
Factors into it. There's like just gender rule. We have that
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to take place in the workplace, right? It's out of it,
Yeah,
right? It's like
still
Western culture.
their gender is still what the reason why they make less if it's not in the workplace. It doesn't have to be in the workplace for gender to be the reason why they make less. Gender discrimination can still be the reason why you make less. Like, for example, like let's say I'm a woman and I'm more susceptible to sexual assault and I'm sexually assaulted outside of the workplace, right? Chances are that would not have happened to me if I were a man, but it is going to increase or decrease my productivity at work. So again, my gender was the reason for that happening because I am more likely to be victimized for that specifically because of my gender. So that's still gender discrimination. It's still a pervasive issue, right? That's so like you're just arguing for alternate explanations that explain gender discrimination in a different, more roundabout way, which I can actually get behind.
Wait, I didn't hear I think it glitched. Can you repeat the last sentence? My glitched.
I said that you're still attributing these issues to gender discrimination. You are saying that they experience sexism somewhere else, and that's why they're less productive. Which is, I could agree that to a large extent, sexism, like not just in pay, but in other facets of the workplace, in home life, in society, in school and education and healthcare, and all these places contribute to women making less and choosing careers that pay less than those men do. And I can actually get into this too, about how like as careers become more feminine, it's data from across 50 years. As careers become more feminine, the pay decreases. So it's not women choosing less lower paying fields. It's lower paying fields becoming the ones that there are more women in. So, like, for example, like house cleaners versus janitors make like a lot less money because it's a female dominated field. And if you see transitions in like who's dominating which field, you'll see transitions in who's being paid more just based on situation of men.
My bad. I hate interrupting people. Okay.
No. Sorry. But, you got it.
But like, okay, so you're saying that based on different fields, right? So like one field that just came to my mind when you were talking about like education, right? Which women are in education, like teaching, right? So like there's certain fields, right, that women obviously make more than men in it, right? But the thing there is, right, like that's what I was mentioning. One thing I was mentioning to this blue collar job, right? Because like I was looking at some stats into it, right? That those jobs are like leading in so many ways, and like because you're getting so much money into it, right? So those are like other factors that include to it, like why there's more men in those jobs, right? And there's more women in like education, right? There's certain fields that obviously oppose ideas, and there's certain fields that like there's certain fields that women get paid more and men get paid more. You're saying is based on discrimination, right? I'm saying it's based on like a society, basically, which basically we can both kind of agree on that. That our society put in these gender rules. I'm not agreeing with you. I'm saying we can agree on one thing that which you agreed with too. That's our society put these gender roles, right? Which eventually we are breaking because you see more women in STEM right now. You're seeing more women are joining STEM and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's cool, and I'm very happy that more women are participating in STEM. But also, right now, the underrepresentation of women in STEM is because of sexism specifically, and that's a very high-paying field that women were discouraged from getting into.
How can you? Okay, can you please show me how it's because of sexism?
Okay, so STEM, like as you know, is one of the highest-paying fields, and women's computer science degrees were increasing rapidly throughout the 1990s until the introduction of the personal computer, which was marketed exclusively using like gender tropes and stereotypes to males.
Wouldn't that be automation? Because more, if you
no,
computers.
Okay. No, I'm not saying that that it was automated. I'm saying that in the 1990s, the personal computer, like the laptop, something that you can take home and have by yourself, became widely available. And it was marketed to males as like a way of like gaming and doing masculine stuff and like interacting with sports. And it like they targeted males with their campaigns. And at the exact same time, you saw women's interest in computer science like decrease like extremely drastically. So also another factor that goes into that is now there are more men that are working in STEM because of gender biases that you can agree like in work did exist a long time ago, but people are far less likely to participate in a field when they don't have a role model in that field. So for example, like if I like associate with a rapper that I like and that rapper looks like me, I'm going to want to do that more. I'm going to feel them. Like I'm going to like associate with their experiences in the same way that women have that experience. There were also less female teachers working in STEM. And we see this. There are studies that corroborate that there's an association between having more female teachers and more female students in STEM, but there are no female teachers in STEM because there are no female students in STEM that could actually teach at a certain point. So that's like a whole nother issue. But also STEM has like one of the like highest levels of like sexual harassment, which like negatively impacts.
Can you tell me the stat? Can you tell me the stats on that?
Here, I don't have the stat, but I'll read you the study abstract if you would like that.
Okay.
It's called Hostile and Benevolent Sexism when in college women's STEM outcomes. We examined associations of ambivalent sexism with women's outcomes in university science, technology, engineering, and math courses as a function of their STEM identity. Women who varied in STEM identification reported on their personal experiences with benevolent and hostile sexism and indicated their STEM major intentions, STEM self-efficacy, STEM grade point average. Women perceived more benevolent sexism than hostile sexism, and their STEM identity moderated the associations between sexism and STEM outcomes. Among weakly identified women, protective paternalism predicted lower STEM major intentions, self-efficacy, and STEM GPA. Hostile sexism predicted lower STEM GPA. Male STEM students reported more protective paternalism, suggesting that women's perceptions were not without warrant. We discuss implications of these results for understanding women's underrepresentation in STEM and advise STEM educators to avoid well-intended but paternalistic messages that convey negative stereotypes about women's STEM competence. So this is about like the language and like the way that people act towards women in STEM, where they act like they need help, they act like they're helpless, and that they don't understand the concepts for themselves. And men report these same things, and across both women and men, it's associated with a decrease in the ability to like succeed and want to do STEM. So again, these patterns
So
are.
if you're saying that, right, the misrepresentation of women in STEM, why is there? So like, there's obviously a misrepresentation of men in certain fields that women are taking up upon too, though. Like that,
Like what?
Education, easily.
Is there
like
hiring?
men? There's less. There's more female teachers than male teachers.
Yes,
So like,
there is.
Why is there a disparity between that? Why is there a disparity between the females and that? Because there's certain fields that there's going to be disparity between. Like that's why I kept referring to those. Right? There's certain fields that, yeah.
Okay, I understand that that's also a disparity, but here's the thing: education pays less than STEM, right? So. If you have any evidence to show me that
there's some white collar jobs that pay more than some jobs in STEM.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
What I was saying is that if you could provide to me evidence that men are discouraged from being teachers, that would still reaffirm the fact that men are encouraged to take higher paying jobs by society, and therefore gender bias is why they get paid more. Now, if you don't provide me any evidence on men being, or if you provide me evidence on men being like encouraged to go into education, I would be shocked, but I would actually take that as a point against me. But you saying that there's discrimination against men going into lower paying jobs shows to me that you recognize that sexism is leading to these gender disparities. That's what you're saying to me when you say that men are discouraged from education.
I did not say that. Because
saying but that's the implication of what you're saying. If men are discouraged from going into lower paying jobs and women are discouraged,
I'm saying that the disparity in certain jobs. I'm not saying the disparity is discrimination, in fact.
Right, but I just gave you 3 ways in which discrimination against women directly contributes to that. Right? I just gave you 3 ways, and you haven't debunked any of them.
Wait, what?
I just gave you 3 ways that women experience discrimination in STEM. I can also send you a study that is a systematic review of 116 studies that concludes that personal choice has very little to do with STEM. And the earlier that you reach girls at a young age and start teaching them,
But STEM is literally one field, though. One field
right?
in it. Like there's more other fields that
you brought it up.
I did bring up STEM. I'm saying it's one field in it. That's why I brought up also white collar jobs. Why are there less women in white collar jobs? And then
yeah, sure. I'd be super willing to talk about white collar jobs. And here, just give me 1 second. So like if you want to talk about like the hospitality industry, right? Which is like any type of serving, like a manager would be seen as a better job, but women are paid 5 to like 10% less in like low levels of these jobs, at 21% less at like the higher levels of these jobs, which is like pretty shockingly big number. Like 20% is like a huge number, even when you account for like all relevant factors. Like women are discriminated against in almost every like managerial role. Like
so you're saying because they're paying less is obviously discrimination? So you're saying disparity. You're saying disparity is an end factor of discrimination.
That's a straw man.
That's literally why you keep
wait,
back forward to though.
And if there were discrimination, there would be a disparity. We can agree on that, right?
If there was discrimination,
there would be a disparity. Right? What? Some disparities are discrimination, right?
Yes.
Okay. This disparity is overwhelmingly likely discrimination because they account for all factors that would explain it without being discriminatory. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that is why I'm concluding that it is overwhelmingly likely that there's sexism in this field. So,
okay.
But do you want me to? I can read you another abstract about how, like in managerial roles, companies lose like a huge amount of not social capital. They lose revenue because of male anti-female bias in terms of promotion decisions. It's from 2012. It's from the University of like Cagliari or whatever, which is in Italy, and it's like a review of I think 3,000 promotion decisions that accounts again for a wide variety of factors and finds that companies are losing out on a lot of money because of this gender discrimination. I have another study that shows that the more the wage gap increases, the more cost to society it is, and that a decrease in the wage gap is associated with more productivity for society, which indicates that these companies are not just making wise decisions, they are acting worse towards women in a way that is not advantageous for them, indicating that it's implicit discrimination.
Indicating that it's research. Wait, what? I'm very okay. Can you repeat the last sentence you said?
So, like, okay, I'll break it down. Let's say, like, every day. Let's say every day, like you walk into work and you just slap the desk, right? And you don't know how, but you know for an absolute fact that slapping the desk is costing your company like 10% of its monthly revenue, right? So you would conclude that there is no utility, there's no use, there's no logical reason for you to slap the desk, right? Like, you know that for a fact, right? That there's no logical
Yes, I would conclude that right. There's no point of slapping the desk.
That they have found that the gender pay gap is associated with losses in absolute productivity for society. So there's no reason to do it. It's not justified. It's not explainable. It's just bad.
Okay, I can agree with you on that.
Okay.
It is. I can agree on that. But can you agree with me on that? Obviously, like, there are other factors such as like job choices, right? And like things that agree with that. I think we can both like. We're not okay. We can be here for hours debating like the stats, right? But we can both agree, I guess, in a sort of way that our society gender role affects it.
Yes, society gender roles do affect it, and also treatment in the workplace specifically affects it. And I know that you might not agree with me on that, but I'm glad that we can come together and say that sexism is one of the reasons for the gender pay gap, and that it's good when it decreases because that's indicative of less sexism in society.
Okay, so I guess we're coming into like, because I don't have that much time. I gotta go somewhere. So I guess we can come into like a mutual agreement. I don't know, because like I understand your point. I can understand your point of view, not that I necessarily agree with it. So can we get a
Well, I think that it's
statement?
important. Yeah,
Wait,
sure.
what?
We can
Wait,
wrap
can you,
up.
no, finish what you were going to say.
No. It's cool. I wanted to I wanted to I feel like I've done a good job at demonstrating that there are significant effects of discrimination in specifically when it comes to pay. But I think that if you need to get going, we can do an opening statement because there are some things that I'm going to take care of tonight as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Have Jeremy, you can close first, and then we'll have Jonah finish, and then we'll be done.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah, just close.
Let
Well,
Jonah.
go ahead.
So.
So
You can close first, Jonah.
Yeah. So I think that I've shown, without refutation, that that women are paid less than men, even when you account for any factors that should explain it, which means that it's overwhelmingly likely that gender discrimination does occur and is as a result of the gender pay gap. Even though we cannot account for every factor and we can't know things absolutely. I think that I've demonstrated that that's the reasonable worldview. I think that even if I haven't demonstrated that, which I 100% have, Jeremy and I have come to the conclusion that sexism is still a large reason for the gender pay gap, and therefore gender is still a large reason for the gender pay gap, and therefore should be addressed, and that women are not given a level playing field when compared to men with respect to their treatment in and out of the workplace. That there's no accounting for this by just bringing up external variables, and that sexism continues to pervade the workplace, and that we should work as a society to find solutions to this problem and hope for a day when men and women are paid equally, not just for equal work, but are given the same opportunities to do equal work as well. You can finish now.
Okay, so I think that there's definitely several factors of things that affect the gap. I don't think it's necessarily the discrimination at work. I think I think that our society plays a bigger role into that might slightly affect it in the workplace. And I think that the disparity does not necessarily equate to discrimination, right? And I think that our society need to do a better job into promoting things both for women, encouraging women and men to pursue higher paying job. And I feel like it's more of a society problem than an inward problem. And I feel like me and Jonah was a good debater, and me and Jonah partly agreed that there is a disparity, and our society is one of the reasons why there's a disparity in it. Can we agree on that?
Yeah. I 100% sexism in society is an influence on the gender pay gap. Also, rest in peace to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, champion of women's rights. I just
rest
felt
in peace to her too.
That was crazy. But anyway, I'm about to hop off on here.
Yeah,
So,
I like to
wait,
wait.
guys,
I like to
yeah,
wait. I like to end something on saying one good thing about my opponent, whatever. I would say that you can go first, or if you, it doesn't matter to me.
Nah, I thought it was cool. I thought you were super respectful, and it was a nice debate. You were very reasonable and did not like lots of times you get into debates with people and they're doing it more for the show than for the actual points. And I thought you were very respectful and open minded, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of good points, even though some points I didn't necessarily agree with, but some point I agree with, which definitely took into factors in a way I'm gonna debate this subject in the future, and pretty much respectful. Like I don't know. I saw some clips of the Tyler Bludman debate, and I thought you were gonna be yelling and screaming. I don't know why I had the impression. I don't know why I thought that, but it wasn't like that at all. You seem pretty cool.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You as well. The Tyler debate, Cam did such a bad job modding. He had no control over the situation, and Tyler had like a full microphone set up, and I was on my AirPod. I spent the entire time trying to talk over him because Tyler has a setting on his microphone that he can adjust up to full volume. So if you watch it back, you can see that I was yelling and I wasn't even as loud as Tyler on the broadcast. So I do regret getting out of hand in that debate, but he kept interrupting me and cutting me off, and Cam wasn't doing anything. So it just devolved, and I lost my temper. But anyway, I'm better hop off. But everyone have a good night.
You guys.
I'm about to hop off too.
Yeah, and peace out.
I'll see you.